Welcome back to my channel. Today, we will dive deep into the latest shocking developments on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful, where romance, betrayal, and now murder have created the perfect storm of drama that has viewers glued to their screens. The fatal triangle: Hope, Carter, and Daphne. The saga began several weeks ago when Steffy Forrester, ever the strategic businesswoman, identified a potential weakness in the relationship between Hope Logan and Carter Walton. Seeing an opportunity to regain control of Forrester Creations and push Hope out of the picture, Steffy recruited Daphne Rose, a talented perfume technician from Paris with undeniable charm and beauty. Daphne wasn't just any employee, she was a master perfumer whose expertise was critical for Forrester Creations' upcoming fragrance line, Hope's Desire. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on Steffy, who found it deliciously fitting that the woman named after the product would be instrumental in its creator's downfall. Steffy's plan was simple but potentially devastating: have Daphne seduce Carter, break up his relationship with Hope, and in the ensuing emotional fallout, Hope would lose focus on her fashion line, allowing Steffy to step in and take control. It was manipulative, calculated, and entirely in character for the ambitious Forrester heir. Daphne, motivated by promises of career advancement and a permanent position at the prestigious fashion house, agreed to Steffy's scheme. What started as casual flirtation in the office quickly escalated to late-night work sessions, intimate lunches, and lingering touches that didn't go unnoticed by the other employees. Carter, though initially resistant to Daphne's advances, gradually found himself drawn to her. Her expertise in perfumery fascinated him, and her European sophistication provided a stark contrast to Hope's more wholesome American appeal. While he remained committed to Hope, the temptation that Daphne represented was becoming increasingly difficult to resist. The moment of truth. The situation reached its breaking point last week when Hope decided to surprise Carter with lunch at his office. What she discovered would forever change the dynamics of their relationship. As she opened the door to Carter's office, she found him locked in a passionate embrace with Daphne, their lips meeting in what appeared to be a moment of genuine connection rather than a calculated move in Steffy's chess game. The scene that followed was explosive. Hope, typically composed and forgiving, unleashed years of pent-up insecurity and rage. She had endured betrayal before with Liam Spencer, and finding herself in a similar situation with Carter was too much to bear. Her ultimatum was clear and non-negotiable: either Daphne goes, or she does. Carter, caught between professional responsibility and personal relationships, tried to explain that Daphne was essential to the success of the new fragrance line. He attempted to downplay the kiss, claiming it was a momentary lapse in judgment that wouldn't be repeated. But Hope remained unmoved, her trust shattered beyond immediate repair. After hours of heated discussion that echoed through the halls of Forrester Creations, Carter finally relented. With profound regret evident in his expression, he called Daphne into his office and delivered the news. Despite her invaluable contributions to the company, her position was being terminated, effective immediately. Daphne's departure and devastating end. Daphne received the news with a mixture of shock and resignation. She had known the risks when she agreed to Steffy's plan, but she hadn't anticipated developing genuine feelings for Carter in the process. What had started as a calculated seduction had evolved into something more complex, and now it was ending in professional disgrace. With no reason to remain in Los Angeles, Daphne made arrangements to return to Paris. She packed her belongings, checked out of her hotel, and sent a final text message to Steffy, informing her that the mission had failed and she was leaving. Steffy, frustrated by this turn of events, didn't even bother to reply, already formulating a new plan to undermine Hope's position at Forrester Creations. On the day of her departure, Daphne loaded her luggage into her rental car and began the drive to Los Angeles International Airport. The coastal road offered stunning views of the Pacific Ocean, a bittersweet farewell to the city that had briefly promised so much but ultimately delivered heartbreak and humiliation. What happened next would transform a tale of corporate intrigue and romantic betrayal into something far more sinister. As Daphne navigated a particularly winding section of road, another vehicle appeared behind her, following too closely for comfort. Initially assuming it was just an impatient driver, Daphne tried to maintain her speed and focus on the road ahead. But the other car's intentions soon became clear. It accelerated suddenly, pulling alongside Daphne's vehicle before swerving sharply into her lane. The maneuver left Daphne with no choice but to veer right, directly toward the cliff edge. In a desperate attempt to avoid collision, she overcorrected, sending her car through the guardrail and into the abyss below. The impact was catastrophic. Daphne's vehicle tumbled down the rocky cliff face, coming to rest at the bottom in a crumpled heap of metal and glass. First responders arrived quickly, alerted by a witness who had seen the entire incident, but it was too late. Daphne Rose was pronounced dead at the scene, her promising career and complicated life cut tragically short. The investigation begins. News of Daphne's death spread quickly through Los Angeles, reaching Forrester Creations by midday. The initial reports described it as a tragic accident, a momentary loss of control on a dangerous stretch of road. But Chief of Police Baker, a veteran investigator who had handled numerous cases involving the Forrester and Logan families, sensed something more sinister from the moment he arrived at the scene. The skid marks on the road told a story inconsistent with a simple accident. The witness report of another vehicle forcing Daphne off the road suggested deliberate intent rather than misfortune. And the timing, immediately after her dismissal from Forrester Creations following a scandalous incident, raised too many questions to ignore. Chief Baker declared the site a potential crime scene, ordering his team to collect every piece of evidence, photograph the area extensively, and interview anyone who might have seen anything relevant. This wasn't just going to be an accident report, it was now a murder investigation. Back at Forrester Creations, the news of Daphne's death cast a pall over the entire building. Employees who had barely known her spoke in hushed tones, speculating about the circumstances and wondering if there was more to the story than was being reported. Carter retreated to his office, visibly shaken by the news and grappling with guilt over his role in her dismissal. Hope's reaction was more complex. While she expressed appropriate shock and sympathy, there was an undeniable undercurrent of relief that the woman who had threatened her relationship was no longer a factor. This ambivalence didn't go unnoticed, particularly by Steffy, who watched Hope's reaction with narrowed eyes and growing suspicion. Steffy's suspicions. Steffy Forrester had always been quick to think the worst of the Logan women, a family prejudice inherited from her grandmother Stephanie and reinforced through years of conflict. As she observed Hope's behavior in the aftermath of Daphne's death, her mind began connecting dots that others might have dismissed as coincidental. The timing was too perfect. Hope discovers Carter and Daphne kissing, demands Daphne's immediate termination, and within 24 hours, Daphne is dead in what appears to be a deliberate act. In Steffy's mind, the conclusion was obvious: Hope Logan had eliminated her rival permanently. Steffy began subtly gathering information, questioning employees about Hope's whereabouts during the time of Daphne's accident, noting inconsistencies in Hope's account of her mourning, and paying particular attention to Hope's seemingly rehearsed expressions of shock and grief. What Steffy lacked, however, was concrete evidence. She couldn't place Hope at the scene of the crime or prove that she had the means to orchestrate such an elaborate murder. But Steffy was patient and determined. If Hope was indeed responsible for Daphne's death, Steffy would find a way to expose her, not just for justice's sake but for the ultimate victory in their long-standing feud. Chief Baker's investigation deepens. Chief Baker approached the investigation with methodical precision. His first step was to obtain traffic camera footage from the area, hoping to identify the vehicle that had forced Daphne off the road. The cameras had captured a black SUV with tinted windows following Daphne's car, but the license plate was obscured, and the driver's identity remained hidden. Next, he turned his attention to Daphne's personal effects recovered from the crash site. Her smartphone, though damaged, contained potentially valuable information about her final communications. The forensic team worked to recover data from the device, including text messages, call logs, and location data that might reveal who Daphne had been in contact with before her death. Baker also ordered a thorough background check on Daphne Rose. Who was she really? What was her history before coming to Los Angeles? And most importantly, who might have wanted her dead? The initial results revealed a woman with an impeccable professional reputation in the perfume industry but few personal connections. She had been divorced for 3 years, had no children, and maintained limited contact with her family in France. The investigation led Baker to Forrester Creations, where he requested interviews with everyone who had worked closely with Daphne. Carter's interview was particularly revealing, as he reluctantly admitted to the kiss that had led to Daphne's dismissal. He described Hope's reaction as intensely angry but insisted she wasn't capable of violence. Hope's interview painted a different picture. She acknowledged her anger upon discovering Carter and Daphne together but claimed she had spent the morning of Daphne's death with her mother, Brooke, discussing designs for the upcoming fashion show. Brooke corroborated this alibi, though Baker noted a slight hesitation in her response that warranted further investigation. Steffy's interview was perhaps the most interesting. While she didn't directly accuse Hope of murder, she made sure to mention Hope's unstable emotional state following the discovery of Carter and Daphne's betrayal. She also casually mentioned that Hope had access to company vehicles, including a black SUV similar to the one captured on traffic cameras. The ripple effects at Forrester Creations. As the investigation continued, the atmosphere at Forrester Creations grew increasingly tense. The company that had always thrived on drama now found itself at the center of a murder investigation, and the repercussions were being felt throughout the organization. The most immediate impact was on the new fragrance line. Without Daphne's expertise, the project faced significant delays. The formulas she had been developing were incomplete, and her notes were cryptic, intelligible only to someone with her specialized knowledge. Carter suggested bringing in another perfumer from Paris, but the timeline would set the launch back by months, potentially costing millions in lost revenue. The personal dynamics within the company had also shifted dramatically. Carter and Hope's relationship, already strained by the kiss with Daphne, now faced the additional pressure of the murder investigation. They presented a united front in public, but behind closed doors, doubt and suspicion had begun to erode their connection. Rich Forrester found himself in an impossible position. As CEO, he needed to maintain the company's stability and public image during this crisis. As a father, he wanted to protect Steffy from any fallout from her involvement with Daphne. And as Hope's former stepfather, he felt a responsibility toward her as well, especially if she was being falsely suspected of murder. Brooke Logan Forrester, ever protective of her daughter, went on the offensive. She publicly questioned the need for an investigation, suggesting that Daphne's death was clearly an accident and that any insinuation otherwise was motivated by personal vendettas. Her passionate defense of Hope only fueled Steffy's suspicions, making her more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Unexpected revelations. As Chief Baker delved deeper into Daphne's background, unexpected connections began to emerge. Analysis of her phone records revealed multiple calls to a number registered to Thomas Forrester, Ridge's son and Steffy's brother, in the weeks leading up to her death. This was particularly intriguing because Thomas had been in Europe during this period, supposedly focusing on expanding Forrester Creations' presence in the Italian market. When confronted with this information, Thomas admitted to knowing Daphne but downplayed their connection, claiming they had met briefly at a fashion event in Paris and had only spoken about potential collaboration opportunities. His explanation seemed plausible but left Baker unconvinced. There was something in Thomas's demeanor that suggested he wasn't being entirely truthful. Further investigation into Daphne's financial records revealed another surprise. She had received a substantial wire transfer from an offshore account just days before her arrival in Los Angeles. The amount, $250,000, far exceeded what would be expected for a consulting fee, even for someone of Daphne's expertise. The source of the funds was carefully concealed, but Baker's team was working to trace it back to its origin. These discoveries added new dimensions to the case. Was Daphne's role at Forrester Creations more complicated than it appeared? Was she involved in industrial espionage, perhaps selling Forrester secrets to a competitor? Or was she being paid to carry out some other agenda entirely, one that ultimately led to her death? The pressure mounts on Hope. As these questions swirled, Hope Logan found herself increasingly isolated. Colleagues who had once been friendly now regarded her with suspicion. Conversations would abruptly cease when she entered a room, only to resume in whispers after she left. The pressure was beginning to affect her work, with designs for her fashion line lacking their usual creativity and polish. Carter remained supportive publicly but had begun to harbor private doubts. He found himself replaying conversations with Hope, analyzing her reactions to Daphne, wondering if there had been signs he had missed. He wanted to believe in her innocence but couldn't entirely dismiss the possibility of her involvement in Daphne's death. Hope's mother, Brooke, suggested she take a leave of absence until the investigation concluded, but Hope refused. Leaving now would be seen as an admission of guilt, she argued. Instead, she threw herself into her work with renewed determination, as if proving her professional worth could somehow dispel the cloud of suspicion hanging over her. The situation reached a breaking point during a design meeting when Steffy made a thinly veiled reference to Hope's potential involvement in Daphne's death. Hope, pushed beyond endurance, erupted in a rare display of fury, accusing Steffy of orchestrating the entire situation by bringing Daphne to Los Angeles in the first place. "If anyone has blood on their hands, it's you, Steffy," Hope shouted, her voice echoing through the conference room. "You brought her here, you used her, and now she's dead. And somehow you're trying to blame me? This is low, even for you." The outburst shocked everyone present, not just for its intensity but for the revelation it contained. Hope had effectively confirmed that she knew about Steffy's plan to use Daphne to break up her relationship with Carter, information that raised new questions about what else she might have known and what actions she might have taken in response. A new suspect emerges. As Chief Baker continued his investigation, a new lead emerged from an unexpected source. A hotel maid came forward with information about a heated argument she had overheard between Daphne and an unidentified man the night before her death. The description she provided didn't match Carter, Thomas, or any other known associate of Daphne's. Security footage from the hotel confirmed the maid's account, showing a tall man with dark hair entering Daphne's room at 11:23 p.m. and leaving approximately 40 minutes later, his face carefully turned away from the cameras. Forensic analysis of the footage suggested the man was deliberately concealing his identity, indicating premeditation rather than a spontaneous visit. This discovery shifted the focus of the investigation. While Hope remained a person of interest due to her clear motive, the mysterious visitor represented a new avenue to explore. Who was this man, and what was his connection to Daphne? Was their argument related to her work at Forrester Creations, or was it about something else entirely? Baker ordered his team to cross-reference the partial description and timing with airport and hotel records, looking for visitors who might match the profile. He also requested additional footage from surrounding businesses, hoping to track the man's movements before and after his visit to Daphne's room. The investigation took another turn when forensic analysis of Daphne's laptop revealed encrypted files that appeared to contain proprietary information about not just Forrester Creations but several other major fashion houses as well. This suggested that Daphne might have been engaged in corporate espionage on a scale much larger than initially suspected. The truth begins to emerge. As the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together, a more complex picture began to emerge. Daphne Rose wasn't simply a talented perfumer recruited by Steffy to break up Hope and Carter. She was a sophisticated industrial spy who had been selling secrets between competing fashion houses for years, playing all sides against each other for financial gain. The $250,000 payment wasn't from Steffy or Forrester Creations but from a rival fashion house that had hired Daphne to steal the formula for Hope's new fragrance line. The mysterious man at the hotel was identified as Jacques Laurent, a known corporate fixer who worked for multiple fashion conglomerates, ensuring their interests were protected by any means necessary. This revelation cast Daphne's death in a new light. While Hope still had a personal motive for wanting Daphne gone, the stakes in the corporate espionage game were much higher. If Daphne had been caught stealing proprietary information, the financial implications for the companies involved would have been enormous. Further investigation into the black SUV that had forced Daphne off the road led to a rental company that specialized in providing unmarked vehicles for private security firms. The rental had been paid for with a corporate credit card linked to a shell company that, when traced back through several layers of ownership, connected to one of Forrester Creations' main competitors. Chief Baker now had a theory that fit all the available evidence. Daphne had been eliminated not because of a personal vendetta but because she had become a liability in a high-stakes corporate espionage operation.